Hello, everyone, to all you amazing starseeds and wayshowers and gatekeepers and grid workers and galactic shamans. And a lot of people have asked me, what is a galactic shaman? I'll tell you. So shamans typically are initiated by other shamans. I, myself, was not initiated by physical shamans, but when I had my mental breakdown in 2006, which was 13 years ago at 22 years old, that was my initiation by higher dimensional beings, ETs, ascended masters, and so that was my initiation into higher consciousness. So to me, a galactic shaman is someone who's initiated by the galactics, by the extra dimensionals. So today I want to talk about, this is an energy update, but it's going to be tailored to a specific subject. The message that came through today was Atlantis is back in full swing. And as many of you know, Atlantis can be likened to high magic, the high priest, the high priestess. And that energy that sunk, metaphorically, is back in full effect. When I think of Atlantis, I will equate that to indigo children, and typically I will equate Lemuria with crystal children. And we all have both of those codes within us. We all have the rainbow codes, the crystal codes, the Atlantean codes. We all have that within us, but usually we'll have a predominant attribute. So for me, I'm an indigo child. I always have been. I've always been very defiant. I always believed in my truth and in myself and in my magic. And obviously when we're young, we're not aware of this fact. We just know that we stand for something and we don't like to be told what to do. Well, that's me. I never liked to be told what to do, and everything I did kind of created like a ripple effect of wobbling my family out of alignment, which forced them to grow. So an indigo will do things that other people aren't agreeable to, but that's their way of being the renegade and reconnecting to their truth. And by virtue of doing this, everyone around them is affected. It's like contagion, right? It's a contagious energy that will create a chain reaction. And the crystals, to me, my best friend Rex is a crystal. They're just in the flow all the time. They don't necessarily need to analyze what they receive when they induce themselves in a trance, whereas I do. I will send myself into a trance and then I'll split myself to study what I'm picking up energetically, but also to enjoy the euphoria and the bliss of it all. But as an indigo Virgo, I love to dissect all of the different energies because that gives me a further understanding into the inner workings of the universe and how everything is connected. The crystal is very go with the flow. They're very naturally intuitive. They don't need to know all the details of everything. I need to know all the details, but they have a wonderful energy. It just broadcasts from the depth of their soul. They're easy to be around. Anyways, I'm not going to get into that too much, but that was just a quick little intro. Atlantis is back in full effect. A lot of people have asked me over the course of my career, which has only been 5 years or so, how did you get to where you are? How have you managed to become such a seasoned manifester? And thank you, that's very nice. The truth is, there is so much power held within your imagination. All right, your DNA is linked to your imagination. If you haven't seen my video, Are Your Spirit Guides You? Then I highly advise you to watch that before you watch this, because they're completely tie in together. So if you haven't seen Are Your Spirit Guides You, please go back and watch that and then come back to this one. Or whatever, you know. You have your free will, you do what you want. So here's the thing. I'm a huge avid meditator, especially when it comes to walking. And I'll tell you why. Especially when the sun is setting at night and the moon is rising, the veil starts to blur out. It starts to thin out. So Avalon, as we know it, Avalon, where Merlin is, where all these fairies are, where all the wizards are, the magic, the high magic, is highly accessible. So when I walk at night, I can feel my kundalini just surging from the depth of my soul and connecting me to that magical realm. How I've become a manifester is through my imagination. I would even venture to say that I got the following that I've gotten because of meditations that I've done that were sort of like an example, being a giant, walking in the streets, and then attaching to that the desire to want to share my message. And then seeing all the helicopters surround me because, right, there's a giant, what an anomaly, walking on the street. And now I'm on breaking news. And now I share my message. So when you attach an emotion, a desire, to what it is that you want to experience in your physical realm, then that activates or crystallizes your dormant DNA. So that's just one example of what I will do in my meditation, is to be a giant. And then I'll bounce over, right, like a hop and a skip, over to being, let's say, a dragon that spits fire. The dragon and the giant have a different energy, even though they're both powerful. The color of the fire also will have a different energy depending on which color you choose. The color of your dragon will have a different energy. But when you walk, it allows you to be free, to unleash your imagination. So I'll give you a few examples that are just coming to mind now. I'll walk and imagine that I have tornadoes coming out of my palms and they're spinning really fast. And I can feel the energy of that. And they're rotating in a clockwise rotation. And then I'll switch it to counterclock, and then I'll feel something different. And I feel so much power erupting. So much. Now, the reason I said go watch Spirit Guide, or your spirit guides you, is because everything you're able to conjure up within your imagination is a reality or a dimension that does exist. It exists. So when you can imagine that you're a dragon, or that you're a human and you're walking with 3 dragons behind you, what happens is you're connecting to the dragon realm, and thus activating your dragon code within your DNA, because DNA is the same across the universe. It's just that we're operating with a 4-strand DNA when we have 12. And within each strand, you can go into all these different strands. It's like a never-ending, infinite structure of consciousness. So some of the examples I use are like, I'll walk and imagine that I'm using my telekinetic powers with my brain to grow fingernails that curl up all the way to the sky. And I feel the power. And I can feel that inactive DNA coming online. So that's an example of that. Another one I'll use is I will imagine that I'm wearing a cloak of invisibility, and there are people walking by me and they can't see me. See, the thing is, you have to have full, utter belief without any doubt that you're doing this. And obviously in the beginning, you might doubt yourself a little bit. It's normal, but then you work on removing that doubt, because you don't need it. It's the only thing that's blocking you from believing and then receiving these activations or these transmissions from these other dimensional realities. So every archetype that you choose to work with carries a different vibrational tone. And then the idea is to kind of connect with it via your emotions and then create amplitude. You have to create amplitude with that visualization. What that does, amplitude means like you're creating a magnetic resonance. So let's say that, for instance, you go out there and you imagine that you're this queen and you're wearing a crown and no one can mess with you. You're unstoppable. And then you start owning that frequency of being unapologetic and being this monarch. As you walk, you're going to feel the power of the queen. Yes? Well, queens exist, so you're tuning into that frequency, and then you're able to file it down. Okay? It's like pulling a blinder down. You bring it down into your body. You do this via your emotional structure. I'm connected. Yeah. And you can even attach desires to it. And they don't necessarily have to be physical attachments. They can be, right? They can be linked to materiality, or they can just be that you're wanting to raise your vibrational frequency. So when people ask me, how do you manifest? It's all via my imagination. I'm bringing online different DNA strands that might be dormant that will then magnetize to me its like frequency. So if I'm working with, let's say, an angel, I am the angel, or I have an angel beside me, you can play with it, right? There's no end as to what you can do. You can be an angel that's walking on water. How does that feel? Oh, it feels very thin and it feels very soft. Okay, cool. Study yourself. Study the frequencies that are magnetizing to you. And then the more DNA that you activate, the more that your physical reality, the field of existence, is going to conform to what you've just activated, because it becomes part of your belief. It's like a new belief, or it's a new pattern that you've created within yourself. So our reality is always responding to the frequency that we are dwelling in, always. And we indwell these physical bodies. These physical bodies carry their own vibration, but we were made in the image of a 12th dimensional human, 12th dimensional being. So we have so much access, but it is up to us to flip those light switches on. You can have fun with it. Okay, you can imagine that you're Storm from the movie X-Men, and you levitate up into the sky and you shoot lightning out of your hands. You can imagine that you have a rainbow fire around you, and then change the color. How does that feel? Another thing I like to do is working with mudras, and they will come naturally because I'm inducing myself into a trance. It's a trance-like state where spirit takes over me. And yet I'm taking over it. It's just a matter of how you present it, but I'm wielding my powers. So let's just say that you are working with mudras. You might find, like, I'll do this thing where I'll do this sometimes, but then I'll move my thumb up against my skin and I feel something different. It's a different key. And then I'll move my hand this way and be like bringing information from the Akashic record from the West or from the East. So you can have fun with it. There's no limit here. And if you apply yourself and you are consistent with this practice, meaning you do your due diligence to show up every night and do this, obviously you can take breaks, right? You have to listen to your body. Your light body is communicating to you every hour of the day, every minute, every second. But if you dedicate yourself enough, then you master something. You know, I was thinking about this the other day. You can be a master of your reality. But if I play a game, like we recently got Super Smash Brothers, and I've never been a gamer, not since I was young, and I'm really enjoying it. And it doesn't matter if I've mastered my reality. These people have been playing games for a long time. So when I step into that paradigm, I'm not just going to beat everyone. I have to practice. I have to show up every day and allot my time to this practice. So the only thing that's going to make me a good gamer is if I keep working with it every day, if I keep practicing. I'm not saying that's my objective, but you get the idea. In physical form, we actually have to invest our energy, our time, our focus into things to see those seeds sprout, to see that garden grow. We have to. So if you have an acrobat that's been doing gymnastics since they were 5 years old, and they show up at practice every day at 6 a.m., of course, they're probably going to become a professional, because in this third dimensional time-space reality, it requires dedication. And it's a cumulative effort. I've been doing this stuff with my imagination since 2011. And people have asked me, well, can you give me breath exercises? And I get it, because the thing is, your imagination starts to get amplified when you are building your prana. And if you guys meditate, you already know, like, you're amping up your life force. You activate your pineal gland, and your pineal gland is your third eye that is then able to interdimensional travel or play with your imagination like that. But a lot of people have asked me, like, well, can you give us an exercise for breathing, like a breathing technique? The thing is, though, that's where we have to solve our own puzzle. That's where, if I could give you what I've discovered right now, I would give it to you. I would pull it out of me and hand it to you and be like, here. But the way that this universe has been designed is we can all be technical support for each other. Okay, we can all be technical support. But when it comes down to unlocking universal secrets and mysteries, then we have to do it and figure it out, because it's a quest that you go on. When I start my walking meditation every night, I feel like I dial about 1,000 codes in 5 seconds. It's like, and it's like my pineal gland starts to pierce. So I'm not sharing this to intimidate you. It's not like that. That's my technique. And I figured it out over time. But it's trial and error, like anything in life. If you start tennis today, you may not be the best. If I start a game like Super Smash Brothers, I'm probably going to get beat a few times. So the idea is to release the perfectionism, always release the perfectionism, and just begin. Just begin. And you will be led, because you have an angelic team. You have ascended masters, you have spirit guides that are always with you around the clock to show you what to do next. And it's an exploration. So as long as you are not judging that which you are exploring, then you will always find new doorways that you can unlock. The key is to not judge yourself. If you get inundated with thoughts in your meditation, that might actually be a good thing. But then the key is to find that pocket within yourself, the observer, that can witness all this activity going on in your brain without being it, without being that activity. So I'm always receiving thoughts, always, but I'm studying the cosmos as I'm doing so. And again, don't just work with one example. Like I mentioned the giant, and that's how I built my following, and that's how I'm able to share my messages, because I made breaking news in the astral realm. Don't just use that, because your imagination is limitless. Limitless. Practice everything. The key is to never get complacent. And everything I'm sharing right now is very Merlin. It's very Merlin-like. The 9 all also work with me in meditation, because they will do this thing where I will kind of self-hypnotize myself, and I can see myself in another realm. That's the thing. When you're working with your imagination, you see everything that's going on in these other realms. You can be in those other realms and observe your human, or you can be the human observing yourself in those other realms. It becomes a quantum practice. But I'll do this thing where my eyes kind of go blurry, because I'm like in a self-hypnosis mode. And then I'll see another self facing the 9, like these extraterrestrials, and they're hypnotizing me. So the self-hypnosis is them hypnotizing me to then promote a transference of their technology into my physical structure, because they're highly telekinetic. They teleport, all of this. So you can have fun with it. There's no one way to do it. You can be a unicorn. You can be a fairy. You can shoot fairy dust out of your palms. You can imagine that you're beaming lasers out of your eyes and you're focusing on one focal point. You can imagine that you have this beautiful cape behind you, which makes you feel powerful. You can be Merlin if you want and have the staff, and maybe just, kind of knock the staff against the floor or the ground and imagine that it creates like an earthquake of change, of positive change in the universe. Like, really, there's no end to what you can do. I'm just making this stuff up as I go. But something else I wanted to share with you guys, how I studied the universe in 2011, and I'm always studying. I'm a student for life. but it changes, right? It's like seasons. You go through one phase and then you move into the next and the next and the next. When I first awakened, and I don't do this as much now because I really function from that unified field, the open heart, the higher mind, those are working in complement with each other. But when I first awakened, we kind of have to go through this initiation period where we unlock that DNA, where we activate that dormant strand. So one thing I would do is I would set a mantra every day or every hour, like you get to choose. And I call this programming your vibratory field. Because again, every intention that you set for yourself is going to have your physical reality conform to it. Okay? Your universe is always affirming you. Yes, yes, yes. If you want to be angry, yes, yes, yes. We'll send you more of that. So what I would do is I would wake up and say, today I'm going to uphold the frequency of being a king. And then I would say to myself, don't you dare address me, I'm a king. And I would say this in my mind. You want to kind of keep this hush-hush, right? You don't go around telling people you're a king or that you're Jesus or that you're Superman. Like, you don't do that. You uphold the frequency. Everything that you conjure within your imagination field is linked to the collective subconscious. All right? Your imagination is connected to your subconscious, the collective subconscious. So I would go out in my day, and as a king, don't you dare address me. You really have to own it. Like, don't be like afraid, oh my God, people are going to think I'm mean. No, you're studying the Akashic records. And I would go out and I would, all the frequencies that were in that likeness would be drawn to me. Seeing people, how people respond to the king. Seeing how, which isn't so much about the people, it's you creating your own reality. It's you extracting data from source field by programming your own field. So how I see it is like a big blob. Think of source as this big blob. And the second that you believe something, without a shadow of a doubt, that big blob starts to reshape itself to meet you at that frequency. A lot of humans get way too caught up and hung up on, well, how do I manifest money? Money is a dense energy. Don't focus on materiality. Now, I want to just make sure I clarify. Money doesn't necessarily carry a low vibration, but that's my point. You want to focus on the vibration, not on the money. Focus on the vibration. So when I would go out and be like, I'm a king, I felt rich. And I assumed that role, right? We're all playing a role, let's just face it. This is a big stage. And I would play that role for the day and study what it's like to be a monarch. I felt rich. I would invite that energy of wealth into my frequency, power. And then the next day I'd be like a unicorn, like, I'm happy, but it's a frequency. You're connecting as the unicorn. And everything's playful now. Yes? It's like a high energy. So you can have fun with this as well. And again, keep it on the low. Hush, hush. You're doing this because it's your own training ground. Now, something else I want to mention. Oh, and this is another visualization I used to play with. I would imagine myself to be like this huge yellow cobra with red eyes. And most people are subconsciously terrified of cobras. So then I would be able to pick up on everyone's fear within the collective. Now, one person might say, that's so evil, Phil. That's just a projection. Again, this is not about people. This is about you understanding how the universe works. You being able to broach different records within the Akash. You being able to pull that information to you by way of being that cobra. So if people are very afraid of cobras, are they? Or maybe they have fears around money, or maybe they have fears of leaving the person that they love. It's just fear. It's under the umbrella of fear. So as I would walk around as this cobra with red eyes, I didn't even have to look at people. Because again, you imagine it, you hold the frequency, and everything that is in its likeness, meaning the like frequency, will be drawn to you. So then you pick up on people's fears, and then you connect that to the Akashic records, nothing to do with them, and you study the collective through that. And there's no end, all right? Sometimes I'll be at a coffee shop and I'll start kind of, I'll start inviting this glow around me, and I'll become a light being. And I see myself as this light being. I don't have a physical body anymore. I'm just light. And as people are walking by, they'll look at me like in like, whoa, what's going on over here? And it's because I'm amplifying that light. And I see myself as such. If I didn't believe it, I wouldn't be able to study from that perspective as efficiently and as thoroughly. You guys get the idea, right? You can have fun with it. You're at a coffee shop, you make your coffee cup levitate, and then you put a nice rainbow around it, and then all of a sudden it starts to rain on that coffee cup, and you see a purple umbrella, and it's raining on that coffee cup. Like, have fun with it. Just have fun with it. Your guides are your DNA. So they can be anything you want. They can be an owl with a thorn. They can be anything you want. Anything. When you connect with these different imaginings, you're connecting to a realm where those beings actually exist. So dragons exist. So when you become the dragon, you're becoming your guide, and then all the other dragons will put you through tests like, are you strong enough? You have to really meet us at our frequency. That's kind of how it works. And then your multidimensionality starts to open and open and open and open. And then you become all these guides. And then you have all these guides because all those different realms are assisting you. You see? So, having fun with it. Your guides are your DNA. They live in your DNA. It's quantum DNA. Quantum DNA correlates to all dimensions, and it's infinite, which is why when I speak, you'll feel a different energy all the time, because I've unlocked so much of that quantum DNA that I'm constantly surrounded by guides. That's kind of how it works, which is why I said earlier, I don't really need to do all that anymore. I still do the walking meditation every night. So working with my imagination, because that activates my pineal gland. I'm turbocharging it. I'm practicing moving my chi. So I'll still do that, but I won't go out and be the snake anymore as much, because I only needed that to understand how to make my return back to my heart with the higher mind. I'll still do it sometimes, but most of the time, I can study those different paradigms without the reflection of people now. I can just go in meditation and study all those paradigms, study the universe from through my aloneness. I can just be alone in meditation and go ahead and study the universe. Now, something else I like to do is shoot myself all the way up to the stars or to outer space and round up all the other selves, all my other aspects. And I'll go, you know how like in superhero movies, like they're bringing their power back in, you know, and I won't do that with my face, but I'll do it with my brain, where I'm bringing to me all those aspects. I'm recalling them. I'm bringing them back home. And I can feel such a powerful, powerful energy when I do this as well. So many things we can do, but that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Atlantis is back, you guys, in full swing, and high magic is available to you through the use of your imagination. So I encourage you to get explorative, be adventurous with it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be messy, but it's about consistency. Yes. It's not going to happen overnight. Every day you do it a little bit. And then when you miss a day, it's who cares? Because overall, you're dedicated to your practice. So I hope this message helped you guys. Have fun with it all, and it's all part of playing in this realm, is to be able to collect data from different angles as different archetypes, and then deciding that you're not going to be any of those archetypes. Because sometimes you'll meet someone who's a little too alpha, and cool, you've integrated that energy. But have you really? Because if you really have, you'll always bring yourself back to your heart. You don't belong to any paradigm. And I was thinking about this the other day. I thought, what is sovereignty to me? And I thought sovereignty is being able to play with your beliefs. I believe that I'm a dragon, and let's see what happens, right? I believe that I'm this, and let's see how my universe responds. But not belonging to any of those belief systems. Not belonging to any of those belief systems. That's sovereignty. Is the ability to bounce around without being governed by anything, because your intention is always pure. It's for the Most High. It's for the sake of the collective. It's for the sake of ascension. So you can say that these are my secrets to manifest, but more so, they're my secrets to ascend. They're my secrets to ascend. So I love you guys a lot, and I thank you for showing up on my journey and your journey and our journey. And thanks to everyone taking the time to like, comment, share, subscribe. And yes, I'll see you guys soon. Take care.